Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the conversation on your digital first for an African news network, and that's TOS Television. And of course, it's Wednesday here in the capital city of Nigeria, Abuja. My name is Adesuwasi.
And I am Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yes, Sagir. So it's a bright and sunny day in Abuja today, and it's your kind of weather.
Good morning.
I'm just, letting you know that,
morning.
I know
morning.
you feel good.
Good morning.
I already said good morning.
It's my kind of day, yes, I know.
Exactly.
And I'm happy it has not rained in a couple of days.
It's a terrible
At least people will get time to do laundry and dry their clothes properly.
Well, aside that, I think that
you might not have that issue, but a lot of people do.
That's the
It's been raining for days back to back. I don't think in the past 7 days there's been a day that it hasn't rained.
Okay, so no rain, but I would have preferred a calmer, a more gloomy.
I need sun.
Wow.
I need the sun to come out.
Wow.
Well, okay, fine. Granted, the weather can be dull and cool and whatever. It's beautiful, yes, understandable. But that's weather for sleeping.
I don't know why you say that
working
all the time, but okay, we're just going to move on. So I'm going to bring you, some Wednesday morning motivation with our quote of the day, and after that, we'll be looking at stories from across Africa.
There are certain moments in the day when I need my me time to just unwind and indulge.
What is this?
The Cadbury goodness is in every pack of Cadbury 3-in-1 hot chocolate, making you feel cheerful and pleasant. Enjoy the Cadbury goodness.
Okay, let's get into the stories, and we'll be starting, from Nigeria. So the Nigerian army, in a statement by its spokesperson, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, on Monday said another 186 members of the Islamic State of West Africa province, that's ISWAP, and Boko Haram have surrendered to Nigerian troops. In the Monday statement, the army spokesperson said the 186 terrorists consisted of their wives and other family members. I was going to ask you, how do you feel? Because in as much as we're quite elated, I don't know, optimistic that we keep having members of the Boko Haram sect, or the terrorists basically surrendering to the Nigerian troops. We had over 1,000 the other day and 186. But I do know there's some skepticism surrounding all of that. How do you feel? What's your take on it?
So far, I know of 1,000 that have surrendered, an extra 1,500. And now 186. So put together, we have 2,686 members currently in the last 1 month who have voluntarily surrendered to the Nigerian army. While I would say it's good news, I wouldn't advise the army or the Nigerian government to be quick to reintegrate them back into their various communities. Yeah. Because as much as we would want to grant them some form of amnesty or some form of pass and forgiveness for crimes committed, because that is what I know the government would want to do expectedly for the safety of the communities and to avoid creating bad blood because you cannot take away the fact that these guys were once members of a sect. Whether they would say, when I was there, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't carry bombs, I didn't kill people or whatever excuse you have, you were a member of the Boko Haram ISWAP sect. You cannot take away the fact that those guys have committed atrocities upon atrocities, killed here and there,
made people homeless,
raped, even at some points they robbed, held people hostage. I mean, the Chibok girls are still in captivity and all of that. So you cannot take that away. So in order not to cause tension, it is advisable the government does not do so. And I must say also that I am worried that the exponential rate of surrenders we've seen so far is really worrying. What's going on?
Exactly.
Because so far, I don't think I've seen any change in national security architecture that is going to warrant them surrendering in this manner and with such numbers.
Yes.
So something is not adding up somewhere.
Yeah.
I must say this. It is just the way I am seeing it, and that is the way I am
I
saying
think
it.
that's how most people are
Yes,
seeing it,
yes,
and that's
but
why I said there's a lot of skepticism surrounding the surrender.
So, moving on, we go to Zambia, where the Zambian opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema defeated the incumbent president Edgar Lungu by a landslide more than 1 million votes in the bitterly contested presidential election last week, and has been declared the winner of the election. President Lungu's Patriotic Front has conceded defeat and congratulated victorious Hichilema. So we see 2015 replaying in Zambia.
Yes, exactly. I was
Okay.
going to say the same thing.
Well, it's good to see, you know, persons who contested in an election being sportsmen
Yes.
by congratulating those who
Exactly.
win the election. I mean, it's a good thing for unity, it's a good thing for peace, and it's even a good thing for democracy.
It just goes to say, look, first of all, this is not a do or die affair.
Yes,
and
first.
secondly, it's not a personal interest. It's in the interest of the country. So if the people don't want me, the people voted for you, obviously. So if you don't want, in the interest of the country, I'll gladly surrender to you and congratulate you and say, look,
And lastly,
congratulations.
and most importantly, I do not want people to die.
Exactly.
Because he is a president. He currently is a president.
Yes.
The opposition just won, so
Won.
he still has powers.
Yes.
You know, the state forces and everything are still in his control. So he could decide, well, you think you might have won, but we're contesting again.
Exactly.
And then all of the problems that we see in some countries where the president refused to admit or accept defeat will start happening. The economy will be in shambles, democracy will break down, and all of that. So it's a good thing to see African countries have elections where the incumbent president loses and even congratulate his opponent, you know, for winning the election.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's move over to South Africa. So South African prison authorities jailed former President Jacob Zuma has undergone an unspecified surgery and remains in hospital with more operations planned days before the corruption trial. According to the prison spokesman, Singabako Zumalo, in a statement on Sunday, Zuma underwent a surgical procedure on Saturday, 15th August 2021, with other patients procedures scheduled for the coming days.
Well, it's quite interesting seeing the way events unfold in South Africa, you know, from the indictment to the sentencing to him reporting
the unrest.
to jail.
You're meeting the unrest.
His supporters coming out to say, hey,
Yes.
this is the former president, it's not supposed to happen to him and all of that. And now we see, you know, him going through surgery.
Unspecified surgery.
So
And then more surgeries to come, you know, preceding the trial.
I think he's taking this from a particular playbook.
I do know that playbook all too well, so we're just going to move
All right, we go to Cameroon, where to combat terrorism on Cameroonian's northern border with Nigeria, President Paul Biya set his top military officers and the governor to reactivate old militias and create new ones. The militias are for the first time to tell people about what the government said in a new strategy by the Islamic State in West Africa Province, or ISWAP, to attract supporters away from rival Boko Haram and attack only military positions.
It's just the uniting the Nigerian and the Cameroonian troops. You know, I mean, we do share a border with Cameroon, and then so it just goes to say whatever affects Nigeria would spill into, you know, other countries. And I think this is actually applaudable at this time.
Yeah, you see, anytime I have conversation with military officers and persons who, for one reason or the other, have something to do with the armed forces, they will always say the current fight with or against Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists is kinetic and is asymmetric. For some reason, I have not been able to understand the concept. However, it's good to see, and from what they are saying is it's unconventional.
Yes.
It's not the conventional warfare that we know.
Exactly.
There's a lot of, you need to do more intelligence work than actual battle.
And that's what we've been advocating for, because it's obvious the combat thing is not really working.
It's not working.
Point,
It won't work, as a matter of fact. They have said it time and time again that, look, if you want to defeat these guys, you need to work or treat them the way they've been acting. You need to work like them, you need to think like them, you need to act like them.
Steps ahead.
Exactly, and be steps ahead. So it's important, and it's good to see the Cameroonian side doing their part to ensure that we not only meet them on the field, but we try as much as we can to spread the ideology of, look, leave the civilians out. Let us meet one-on-one as military or as soldiers and fight. It's always good to see that kind of sportsmanship.
Did you see how How your face lit up when you said, let us meet as soldiers and fight.
I just want to leave me alone. Move on.
Okay, so we're going to bring you COVID-19 updates from across Africa right now. And afterwards, we'll be looking at the front pages of Nigerian newspapers this morning.
TOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, watch out for the latest update on sport and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
My son has always dreamt of being in the spotlight. As his mother, it is my duty to help him live up to his dream. That's why I give him Born Vita every day, which contains iron, zinc, and vitamin C that supports his immunity and gives him the strength to pursue his dreams. Born Vita, strength to dream.
You're still watching the conversation on your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television. And you could be a part of the conversation by sending your comments, concerns, and questions to our various platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TOS TV. You could also, watch the conversation on our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. You could also watch some other programs of TOS TV as well as a recap of the conversation via our YouTube page at TOS TV Network. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It is the newspaper headline segment of the conversation this morning, and to start with, we will begin with the Daily Trust newspaper from the very top, which says PIA, petrol price remains 162 naira per litre, cooking gas prices to drop. And that's by the federal government. Beside that, we see Mantu, silent exit for a man of controversies. And beside that as well, we see 3 years after unveiling, Nigeria Air yet to fly. For the banner headline there, we see White Tegina Yauri students remain in captivity over 2 months after. A couple of riders underneath that story there. Government bandits leaders in talks for prisoner swap, informants frustrating negotiations, and that's according to parents. Bethel school abductors insist on 80 million naira ransom. Our position will not change. That's by the Niger commissioner. For the picture of the day there, we see members of the Taliban hoisting their flag in the capital of Afghanistan, as well as a headline underneath which states Taliban promises respect for women, press freedom as thousands flee. And underneath that, we see a couple of other headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper. So to keep updated, simply grab a copy.
All right, let's look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. I'll be starting with the banner headline there. And it says, despite PIA, federal government to retain subsidy, sell petrol at 162 naira. Insists allocation to host communities, frontier development justifiable. Law not perfect, but a good start, APC admits. Wike, sending 3% directly to host communities will cause crisis. Experts call for investment in modular refineries to end petrol import. Do not withdraw full subsidy, Hariwa warns. And underneath that, why insurgency uprising thrive by Obasanjo. Our increasing population keeps me awake at night. And then just at the top of the paper, repentant Boko Haram members deserve no pity, Iowa leaders tell federal government. The problem with northern Nigeria by Jaga McAfee, others, International fund recovery is not governed by local laws, Malami clarifies. Protect yourselves against banditry, Masari tells Katsina residents. And the last one says APC deploys 23 governors to tackle APGA others in Anambra gubernatorial elections.
For the Daily Times newspaper, see on the banner there, our increasing population keeps me awake at night, and that's according to former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Underneath the picture of the day there, see a couple of other headlines. Arm yourselves against bandits, Masari tells Katsina residents. 2023 elections, current NWC of PDP cannot achieve victory, says Governor Wike. New petroleum industry law is to attract investors, according to the Minister of State for Petroleum. 6 of my priests have been kidnapped, and that's according to Kaduna Catholic Bishop. And that's it for the Daily Times newspaper.
And looking at the Nigerian News Direct, the banner headline on the front page there says $700 million recovered loot. 36 states sue federal government over non-remittance into federation account. Underneath the picture of the day, NNPC Limited to kick off in 6 months, and that's from Silver. Uncertainty trails impact of Petroleum Act on listed oil gas companies. Nigeria's inflation rate drops to 17.38% in July. That's it for the Nigerian News Direct. The front page of the Blueprint newspaper, the banner headline there says 1.8 trillion naira recovered loot, 450 billion naira assets, 36 states drag federal government to Supreme Court alleged diversion. The writers underneath that seek return to Federation account, want RMAFC to design sharing modalities. Recovery is governed by international conventions, not local legislations. That's from Malami. Suit will promote openness in governance. That's from the CSOs. Underneath the picture of the day, unjust killings, Ulama sue for calm as JNI denounces planned protest. MBF condemns bloodbath, urges probe of attacks in villages. Masari to Katsina residents. Arm, defend yourselves against bandits. Kidnappers and Zafra students demand 350 million naira ransom. Inflation may decline by 0.25% July 2021. That's from Rwane. And the last headline that I'll be reading out from the Blueprint newspaper is on COVID-19 and says Nigeria gets 699,760 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from the UK.
And that's it for the newspaper headline segment of the conversation this morning. We'll go on a quick break now, and when we return, we will be bringing you the big story.
You won't go shake your body. Instead, they make it calm down. Eat a farm, say it's happy. You want to grow 6 packs in a day. I beg you not to pass your power. You want to show yourself, oh.
Whatever your size, find it with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now to get the plan that suits you. Airtel, the smart.
At the first sign of pain, you need a solution that you can trust to provide effective relief and is gentle on the stomach. Try Panadol Caplets for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Caplets. This has been Medifact for Panadol.
You're also watching the conversation, and this is the big story. But remember, to be a part of the conversation, you have to follow TOS TV Network on its various social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TOS TV Network. You could also watch the conversation via our website at www.tostvnetwork.com, as well as watch a recap of the conversation via our YouTube page at TOS TV Network. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The focus of the big story this morning is on the issues with the petroleum industry regulation. And this morning, joining us to converse on these issues via telephone is Mr. Dini Ikuno, and he is a social affairs commentator. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, and thank you for inviting me. I'm grateful.
Yes, you're welcome, sir. So, sir, President Muhammadu Buhari just signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law. So, how do you assess the eventual assent of the Petroleum Industry Bill?
Well, I think that we have to first of all appreciate the fact that a bill that has almost spent, let me just round it off, 20 years waiting for the signature of the president has eventually gotten the assent of the president, which is something that we must applaud. Let us also say that the president who signed it into an act coincidentally happens to also be the minister. So the interesting part of the conversation that many people are not really following is how a minister will be the one signing a document that has such international implication. It therefore means that on one hand, while we are celebrating that the president has signed the petroleum industry bill into an act, another thing is that a minister is the one signing a national document into an act where the anomaly is in this conversation. So we are delighted that there is a material to work with, even if the debate about the content and certain percentages is still something on the front line of our discussions. I need to say that it is to a great extent a positive that we now have a particular act that appears to regulate the operations, as it were, of the nation's cash cow, which is the petroleum industry. So that's my position there.
Okay, so now, sir, so far, a lot of people have said that the act that was in place before was never the issue. So laws were never the issue, but rather the implementation of the law. So now with the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act, what is the expectation as to whether Nigerians are going to follow and as well as, implement the law to the latter?
Well, I think that is a very genuine concern, because if you look at successive governments, one thing that characterized the governance of Nigeria, especially when we look at the Fourth Republic, is their blatant disregard for the laws of the land, where you find out that steps that are supposed to be taken won't be taken, and people will be wondering if at all Nigeria is a country of laws. You have to look at some things that are peculiar to successive administrations. Number one, let me begin with Obasanjo, who deprived Lagos of financial resources for 3 years, which he was not supposed to do when he was in power. Obasanjo also went to the unflawed. There were lots of disregard for the law during Obasanjo's regime. If you come to the Goodluck Jonathan administration, you also find out that a very major issue, particularly the reinstatement of the former Chief Justice, the former President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Ayo Salami, where the President Goodluck Jonathan completely disregarded the position of the National Judicial Council to restore him to his position. That's another. So if you look at the Buhari administration, another angle of disrespect for the law is that he has been told repeatedly to release none other than, the former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki, and up to this moment he has not done that. And you look at how long it took them to even release Zagzaki, which was a collaboration of the federal government and the Kaduna State government, both of whom disregarded the law completely. So you'd have to understand that there is an antecedent that people may not obey or follow thoroughly and truly the provisions of this. And I heard Tim Silva, the Minister of Petroleum, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, talk about 6 months time for proper deregulation and full unbundling. So it's a sign that I do not think they will completely obey what the provisions of the law is, so that at least they can allow for proper functionality of the nation's petroleum sector. And don't forget also that many people who are in power today also have certain percentages in the petroleum industry, and anything that will affect their interest, they will fight it to their death. So I expect them not to fully obey what has been passed to law or into law. So it is therefore important for us to look at how we can ensure that they obey the laws that have been passed, and we can have a proper functioning of the Petroleum Industry Act. That's my position on that.
Okay, let's look at the concern of the host communities in all of this. So I do know that they have said that the bill does not really, have the interest at heart, especially, with the 3% allocation to the host communities instead of the 10%. A lot of them have said that having to sign that, that bill into law, despite that clause, just buttresses the fact that the government still doesn't care about host communities. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that the communities have a right to demand more, regardless of whatever anybody wants to say now. The communities have 101%. I have traveled extensively in the Niger Delta, and because I have traveled extensively in the Niger Delta, I know what it means to be in the Niger Delta and the deprivation that those people there suffer. So I think that when that particular bill itself was presented, it was presented that the host community should be given 10%.
Yeah.
But when it came, it went there and returned with 3%. I think that that's not very proper. If, for instance, you had done maybe about 5%, it should have been okay. Then at the same time, don't forget, the statement I've heard from the side of some petroleum sector experts and the government is that when you are talking about 5%, that people don't know that it's a huge money, about 500 million. And I tell them, you cannot be pontificating over the volume of what comes to them. It is not your own business. Your business is, did you do up to 50% of what was proposed by the Yar'Adua administration, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua administration? No. So I think that it is of concern at this moment for them to not actually have heeded and find a middle ground for the conversation around giving the host communities at least 5%. My own hope, sincerely, is that in the near future, we don't have it as a concern where the host communities will begin to say they will not allow anything happen unless their 5% is given or their 10% is given. But at the moment, I think that we have to wait and see what happens. Once it becomes fully operational, then we'll be able to do what has to be done. So that is it for me at the moment. And I hope that going forward, we can really have government begin to look at a lot of things. Don't forget that the speed with which the bill itself was passed definitely shows that some concerns that we have raised appear not to be looked at. A situation where the host communities raised something of huge concern, but the powers that be didn't quite budge, where the lawmakers just went ahead to do it. I think that we need to show a little more respect to Nigerians, because those who happen to be lawmakers and the president are all servants of the people of this country. And I think that that is an angle we should be considering going forward as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation this morning. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. And thank you for staying with us on the conversation this morning. Of course, we'll be back here same time tomorrow. But before then, follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. That is TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, subscribe to TOS TV Network on YouTube. Do not also forget to stream our content on www.tostvnetwork.com. My name is Adesuwa Osui.
And I am Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you so much for watching and see you tomorrow.